I really wish for a world where people just have more freedom to be creative. I think that would be really wonderful. That's my dream. That's my dream. Hi. Before we start the conversation, let me pour you some tea. Pshua. There you go. There's your tea. Nice and warm. It's peppermint tea. No caffeine, so you can drink that before sleep. Anyway, I had a conversation on my stream the other day with a viewer who was having trouble finding time to make music over this past year. I realized through the conversation, I'm not the only one who struggles to plan my time and get past all those mental blocks in order to work on what I love to do. So I wanted to make a video talking about what I found helpful, as well as my own struggles, just to show anyone out there who might be going through the same things that they're not alone. So I recently picked up a book called The Artist's Way. So there's an exercise in this book called Morning Pages. And basically what this exercise is every morning you write 3 pages of nonsense or whatever comes to your mind. You just write 3 pages of it without thinking too much. You just let it come to you and just channel it through your hand. Brr, brr, 3 pages. And I was like, 3 pages a day? Okay, it's kind of frustrating and annoying to have to write 3 pages a day in the morning about random stuff. But it's doable. I'll do it. And after I got into the habit, some days I don't want to do it, but it's much easier to do. And then one day I had this epiphany. My hand was tired from writing my morning pages, and then I was like, wait a second. How many pages have I written? And I realized 3 pages a day for 2 months, I already had a sizable amount of writing. I already had basically a small novella finished from writing only 3 pages a day. And I was like, wait, what if writing a novel was this easy? How had I not realized that before? So doing a little bit a day really, really can get you far. And that's one of the main things, if anything, you take away from this video. I want you to take away that small gains are valuable and really, really do matter. So people think improvement is linear. Improvement is not linear. Even if you're doing the same small amount every day, your skill will build up on itself if you're doing it consistently. And it's exponential. Because naturally you will start to challenge yourself. You will start to reach for a little higher, and a little higher, and a little higher in the same amount of time. Of course, this is over the long term. If we zoom into this graph and look at the short term, you'll see that it goes up and down. It looks like you're not improving at all. But for the long term, if you're able to put in those 3 pages every day, that 30-minute drawing every day, it can get you pretty far. So when I was in middle school, I was a busy kid. I came from home exhausted because I just didn't do, school exhausted me. Being around so many people and being around teachers all the time and having to go from place to place to place, it exhausted me. It overwhelmed me. And then I would have so much homework to do. And then I would have trouble focusing on my homework, so it would take me forever to finish my homework. And then I would get so frustrated because after I finished my homework, I had more homework to do from outside of school classes that I was taking on the weekends. So one day I was so bored with all this homework. I didn't want to do this homework anymore. I was sitting at my desk. My shoulders were sore. My little kid shoulders were sore. It was a dull day. I was so bored. I couldn't play video games on my computer because I was afraid that someone would catch me. And I was supposed to be doing my homework. I didn't want to see my door open and have to turn off my computer and still get caught for playing video games. So instead I took a pencil and I started wrapping clear tape around it. There was just this scotch tape sitting on my desk. It was clear scotch tape. And for some reason, I just started taking pieces of tape and wrapping it around my pencil. Layer after layer after layer. And I took a green marker and colored in the layers. So I colored on scotch tape and wrapped more scotch tape around the pencil until the pencil became this big fat scotch tape pencil. And I used 2 hours just doing that. If that's not procrastination, I don't know what it is. At the end of the day, I had a beautiful scotch tape green pencil, but not much homework done. And then on the weekends, I had to take those extra classes, man. So I was so busy with studying, and somehow I still found the time to distract myself from schoolwork with free online games and making silly things like scotch tape pencils. I needed a creative outlet. I told myself I didn't really have the time for silly hobbies, and I also didn't want to go against my family's wishes. My family really wanted me to do well in my studies because they thought that's what would make me successful. And thus I channeled my energy into wrapping pencils with scotch tape when the boredom set in, instead of channeling that energy to creative pursuits I actually cared about. So finally, summertime rolled around for me. And I had a little bit of free time in summer because I didn't have to go to school. So I began to draw non-stop and work on all sorts of projects that I had really wanted to work on the entire school year. It was so joyful for a while. I still remember that year, just the warm summer sun streaming in through the windows. I really do remember this. And me just sitting at my desk on the computer downstairs, and at that time it was like a really crappy laptop computer. And then I was just working on art, and I posted so many projects on this programming and art website called Scratch MIT. It's a website that helps teach programming to kids. And that was so much fun. However, those days of happiness and awesomeness quickly faded away. I burned out really quickly after starting all those projects. I never finished them. And when school began again, I fell off of doing anything creative or fun. In fact, I was even more discouraged than when I had started. I was so demotivated. And what I struggled with back then, I share this with you because what I struggled with at that time is really similar to all of the things I still struggle with. And for those of you who struggle to find time for what you love, you really, really are not alone. Even middle school me had the same problems. So what usually gets in the way for me when it comes to finding time to do stuff I like to do is, first of all, deadly, deadly perfectionism. One phrase that has been helping me sometimes is that if it's worth doing, it's worth doing it imperfectly. If it's something you want to do, when you close your eyes and you know deep down in your heart that it's something you want to do, before any of those excuses pop into your head, before all the buts and what ifs and not enoughs and can'ts, if you know it's something you want to do, it's worth doing it imperfectly. It's worth doing it in the most scuffed form. In the most scuffed form. Because that will bring you a spark of joy. If anything, a spark of joy. Also, another piece of advice would be to just keep going. Just keep going. Instead of thinking of whatever you want to do right now, or whatever project you're working on, or whatever next step you're working on, as the final thing, as your magnum opus, instead focus on how you know that the next opportunity is right around the corner. If this fails, there's always next time to try again. And this just relieves a lot of pressure. In fact, here's actionable advice. One thing you can do is just go ahead and fail. Do whatever if you're scared to fail, do whatever you plan on doing with the intention to fail. Oh yeah, reverse Uno card it. Reverse Uno card that fear. So, for example, if what I really want to do is make a public speech, and I'm struggling with perfectionism for that. If you reverse Uno card it, I will sign up for a speech event and go to it and mess up on stage and try to make it the worst speech anyone has heard in their life. In fact, I might as well do that just to prove to you all that it's worth doing. What a fun experiment. And then sometimes it's just hard to find time because you're just super busy with things that need to be done. Whether it's family obligations, sickness, work, whatever it may be. And yes, if you take a look at your schedule and you're like, actually right now, I'm not filling my time with stuff I can sacrifice. There's not that much time binge watching random television shows and YouTube videos. Who's done that before? Not me. But yeah, if you're genuinely busy and just don't have time, which is the case sometimes, you can be creative with how you use your time. Believe it or not, there's probably still time in the day you could spare. So in one of Barbara Sher's books, she talks about a woman who didn't have time to paint. Didn't have any time to paint. And what this woman ended up doing was having one of those tough conversations with her family and just making an agreement with them. You could call it a compromise as well. But basically, during family time, where they're supposed to spend time as a family, maybe once a week or so, instead of just sitting there and watching TV with the family, she would set up her painting easel behind the couch and watch TV with the family, but also just paint at the same time. And this was one way that she could incorporate a little bit of what she loved into her life. Another good example of creative use of time is using time on your commute, or using time on your way to the bathroom even, to engage in what you like. There's a method for learning Japanese called the AJAT method, and the person who made that method of learning Japanese, when he was learning Japanese, he would play clips. He'd play Japanese clips on his iPod, on his commute, on the way between classes. Any moment when there was nothing really to do, he would play Japanese in his earphones. And that became a really effective method of immersion. Another thing to take note of is that creativity is everywhere. Speaking from my own experience, sometimes I get a little too caught up in life, or whatever I need to do, or whatever is due, or whatever obligation I have, or whatever trouble or whatever emergency is happening in the moment, that I don't really take the time just to pause and appreciate how the things I really enjoy and the things that bring me joy are already in my life. So it might just be that old poster you bought a long time ago. Or like if you like music, it might be noticing a jingle or noticing the sound design as you enter a store. All those small things that can bring what you love into your life, even for just a little bit. Remember, just a little bit is better than nothing. Within your struggles lie your opportunities. When we're desperate and when we're in pain, it's hard to see how this is true. But all the stuff I mentioned, all the struggles, the perfectionism, being way too busy, hyper-focus, all of that stuff, that energy can be honed into driving you forward to help you move through whatever is challenging you right now in your life. And the negative emotions are what usually actually guide us to the next steps. I came to this realization when I was playing Gris, which is just, it's a beautiful, beautiful game about grief. But I'll show you the scene here. So what is the significance of this scene? Well, you might have already caught on, but basically the protagonist is using their own fear, their own sadness, their own grief, their own darkness to propel them so much further than what they could have normally gone through a normal jump. But when the protagonist jumps with the force of all this grief and sadness and negative emotion represented as the bird propelling them forward, all of a sudden they're able to jump so much forward and leverage all of that negative emotion into the next steps of their life. So please, keep your ears, keep your eyes, most importantly, keep your heart open. Listen, and the messages will come to you. Please, follow what makes you happy, and find ways to do what you love, even in the smallest ways. Of course, don't be a serial killer or anything like that. But come on, you know what I'm saying. This was Emerald. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe and like this video. If this video gets enough likes, maybe I really will do a failure speech in front of a bunch of people. Yeah, not a bad idea. I also stream weekly on Twitch. On Saturdays I do just chatting, so you can come drop by and talk about learning, creativity, whatever's on your mind, or what you're having for dinner, you know? Anyway, toodaloo.